Welcome to Navigating Your Emotions discussion panel. I have an incredible group of experts here with us today. And thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to dive right in. I'm going to introduce the incredible panelists, and then we're going to explore navigating emotions, how that is done, what it has been, what's everyone's experience has been, and what tools and what value does this bring to us. One of our panelists is Dr. Jolina Shah. Dr. Jolina Shah is a clinical pharmacist and holistic diabetes health coach for people with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes with over 15 years of healthcare experience. Jolina approaches diabetes differently. Not only does she address the medications and the health risks associated with diabetes, but she also focuses on the root causes by attending to the emotional and mental aspects of the disease. She has helped hundreds of patients sustain lower blood sugars, lose weight, and take fewer medications so they can live their happiest, healthiest lives. Welcome, Dr. Jolina Shah. We also have Katarina Lenartic joining us. Katarina is an evolutionally life coach and mentor, quantum light master, and activator who is working with universal life energy to raise the frequency of humanity and planet Earth. She is the owner and creator of Be Your True Self, a safe place where you can explore your inner world without fear and judgment, where you will discover your grandest light of who you are. She's a co-author of 2 books that are published with Hill House Publishing, Intuitive Living, and Collaboration, where she shares her journey of being her higher self. And welcome, Katarina. And we also have Laura Lee Lotto, an exuberant ball of fire. Laura Lee flies through life as an Aries sun, Gemini moon, and rising with a stellium in Libra in the 5th. Relationships, fun, and harmony are of the utmost importance, and she has created a life she loves by helping people heal chronic health issues using astrology, aromatherapy, and nutrition. She is passionate about her marriage of 20 plus years to her high school sweetheart, Philip, homeschooling her 4 children, and growing her ever-evolving organic farm near Lake Michigan in Wisconsin. Her unique and unconventional approach to health will change your perspective in a way you never thought it could be, and she hopes to be contagious. Welcome, Laura Lee. Thank you all for being here. And I'm excited to see how all of these different experiences and expertises shine light on our emotional well-being. Using our emotions as a compass, we help understand ourselves better, direct ourselves, and as we become curious and explore our emotions without judgment, without labeling emotions, we find a different way of being. So I wanted to open our discussion up by inviting you to share from your experiences. What has been your personal experience or professional experience that really stood out as far as navigating emotions and seeing the value in diving deeper into emotional well-being and exploring it as one of the tools in an overall wellness? Feel free to unmute yourself. Yeah, jump in.
Hi, nice to be here. Hi, everybody. That's a really good question, isn't it? Because our emotional state can be so layered, so multi-layered, that we can be in one place one day and then the next day be in another place. And so we're trying to find the balance between our emotional and mental state, right? So so my journey with my emotional state, wow, it's been a huge roller coaster, let me tell you. However, my ability to communicate with my spiritual team have taught me how to love myself enough to even look at my shadow and learn how to bring the tools in to know that my emotional state is as valid as anything else that we have. Because wouldn't you agree that sometimes we live in a world where our emotional state is not particularly valid, or, you're crazy, or you don't know what you're talking about, and all that sort of stuff. So far, my journey has been, my guidance has shown me that my emotional awareness is as valid as the next person. So every day I sit quietly and just tune into the emotion that I'm dealing with, whether it's beautiful, ugly, or otherwise, and look at how I can respond to the world within that emotional state. And, my tools are meditation or journaling and things like that.
That's beautiful, Katarina. Thank you so much for sharing. And I really resonate with that validity topic that you bring up, that it's valid. And it is an interesting state, right? The emotional state that can be dismissed, but it is really valid. So thank you for bringing that up. Dr. Julina, I believe that you wanted to share something next.
I did. So I'm going to share like a really personal story. So I was in this like transitional point in my life, and I had went to Bali to do yoga teacher training. And in my head, all the emotions that I had was like, I don't belong here. Like, what am I doing here? And it was a day we were practicing handstands, and I was partnered with somebody, and she ended up, I slipped on the mat and I was holding her up, and she hit her head. And I remember all of the negative emotions I was feeling and that had come up for me. And it was like, you're not good enough, you shouldn't be here, and all this negative self-talk. And what's interesting about that is the whole time I felt like everyone should be focused on her and making her feel better. And at one point, somebody turned to me and had said, like, how are you feeling? And I remember like I needed to acknowledge my own personal feelings. And everyone around me, including this poor woman who had fallen, had come and said, hey, I've already forgiven you. I'm okay. Can you forgive yourself? And I realized at that moment that I had such negative emotions and such negative self-talk, and I needed to work around those things, because here are 10 strangers who I had not even known existed 2 weeks before, and they were much kinder to me than I was to me. And so I think when we talk about negative emotions and stuff, there are things that we do that we've had hardwired. And it's like, I think first is having the awareness that that's there, and then taking the steps to kind of disentangle yourself from the story that's been woven for so long. So that's kind of my experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that personal experience. It's really, there's a lot to it, and I love that you bring up the point of awareness. And I think that's a lot of times with the emotional well-being or the emotional state that we're in, is that things are happening quick, and sometimes we can even miss it, right? And then as we miss it, sometimes we intentionally dismiss it, right? Because we don't want to feel that. But and I also love that you mentioned being hardwired. There's so much programming that's in our heart, has been hardwired within us, that even I find the slightest awareness of that, just being like, oh, there it is. You might not be able to do anything about it right that moment, or even in this lifetime, but the awareness of it being there is so valuable. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for discovering or bringing these two, awareness and hardwiring, to the surface. That's beautiful.
I'd love to jump in on that subject right there. For me, my emotional awareness journey really came about it started around when we were 20. My husband and I got married very young, right out of high school, and we started trying for children right away. And we ended up discovering we had fertility issues. And the longing for children was just something that just almost consumed me mentally, emotionally, physically. It was very, very intense. We sought many different paths to become parents, ultimately needing to just be humbled by life and learn just patience and how to clean our bodies up and clean our health up, and recognizing the role that mental and emotional health played in that. And then we ended up conceiving naturally, and then conceiving again, and then conceiving again. And then I had these 3 beautiful children within a very short span of time. And I wanted these children for so long. And then when I got them, I didn't have the tools to cope. And the hard wiring I got from my parents was in emotional health anyway, was very limited. My dad was raised by a very young teen mom, and my mom was raised by a widow when my mom was 5. My grandfather passed. So the emotional maturity of both of my parents was very stunted in what their single mothers had. And it was something that I had to really, really cultivate in my own parenting with these 3 very close young children. And physically, I ended up breaking because I went into adrenal failure, because I did not know how to manage my stress. I did not have breathing techniques or any tools in my tool belt at all. And so my journey really was the longing for children, then the getting the children, then the not knowing what to do with the children, and then kind of learning along with them. And now they're 13, almost 11 and 9. And it's amazing how emotionally mature they are because they've gone through this journey with me. And it's been a really, really interesting one, but it's helped me to really validate myself, like Katarina said, and then work on that hardwired programming that Jelena had said, because it's really kind of both of those together. And that's really kind of how my story evolved. But it's really the journey of parenthood and then reparenting myself and being gentle with myself through the process.
Yeah. That's so beautiful, Laura Lee. Thank you for sharing. And what an incredible, even, gift of looking back and seeing, oh, look at all of these different me, right? Versions of me that I was, right? And here I am growing through it and recognizing, okay, this is how my parents did it because this is what they were working with. And now taking that choice, right? Choosing that this is not working, that recognition, like this is not working. My body is physically not working, so let me take care of it. That's so beautiful. Thank you. I also wanted to welcome Lisa to our panel discussion. Welcome, Lisa. I would like to take a second to introduce Lisa and then share what we were talking about. So Lisa Dipam Phyllis is an intuitive mentor. She helps feminine, out-of-the-box leaders who feel silenced and invisible break through barriers, stopping them from next-level visibility and success, so they're able to step fully into their power, embody a higher frequency, remember their mission, and reclaim their voice. Through her powerful process, programs, and activations, her clients feel fully expressed, valued, and seen, so they can finally receive the abundance, freedom, and fulfillment that the universe wants to give them. Lisa is a best-selling author, speaker, messenger, and visibility expert, internationally recognized in a world of business, marketing, and awakening consciousness. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Forgive me for being late.
Welcome.
The panel discussions I usually have are a half hour later. Anyway, hi.
Hi, thank you so much for joining. We're so glad you're here. And in our topic of navigating our emotions, the first topic that we're exploring is our personal experiences and how has navigating your emotions or learning to navigate your emotions or even discovering that there is this emotional wellness, emotional aspect of us. What has that been like in your personal or professional experience, and where has these little nuggets of wisdom come in through this emotional wellness?
Yeah, well, it's always a journey, right? And my generation, we had parents, most parents in my generation were just not really emotionally available. And so a lot of people in my age group are have had to grow up resilient and learn about survival and fending for themselves, which makes us have these certain traits like being overly responsible and carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and being a perfectionist and a people pleaser and all these things that are really stories that we've had to tell ourselves to protect ourselves. And so this is really the crux of navigating your emotional life, because these stories that we tell ourselves get so embedded into our psyche, into our programming, into our body. The more we tell ourselves these, whatever stories we have, the more anchored it gets into the body, and eventually causing burnout for most people, which is what happened to me several times until I finally listened and realized what I was doing, and that I was, pushing myself, not being in integrity and in alignment with who I'm here to be. And the emotional, navigating my emotions has been just an unfolding of all of my story, of who I'm here to be, of just discovering the wisdom that my body holds, the wisdom that our emotions hold, and learning not to label them as good, bad, right, wrong. Learning to just allow them to flow through you. And it's really hard when you're in fight, flight, in that trauma response, to initially allow that, to feel the emotion, to name the emotion, to, allow it to just flow through you, and not really, not allow your ego mind to hang on to that emotion. And that's been the unlearning that I've experienced, that has allowed me to heal physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. And so, yeah, that's what I would say with that. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Lisa. Thank you. And these stories that we tell ourselves, that idea of how anchoring, and I felt the weight of it when you said that, how heavy that is, and how we really embody it and become it. And it's a big part of, because we have this incredible mind that loves to tell stories, right? Or loves to just like tell us things, right? And or we tell it things and it believes things. So it's an interesting mechanism that we're working, but it's a heavy weight of these stories that we tell ourselves. So thank you for bringing that to light. And you also talked about allowing emotions to flow through. So I wanted to gather some really great hands-on tips or suggestions of how to begin to allow the emotions to flow through, because there is resistance oftentimes, and even how to recognize that. How do we recognize, what does resistance look like? I know it's going to look different for everyone, but what is this resistance? What is that hint that we're feeling? Where is it? How are we becoming aware of it, to allow it to flow through? So where does this little piece of like, where's that hint, or where's this golden nugget for us, where you found that you can pass along to others to kind of check out their own space and see where they can locate it?
Well, I just want to jump in to what Lisa just alluded to. I'm like the science nerd. So all the stuff she was talking about, and this is what I learned in yoga, was your issues are in your tissues. And I think that's very true. But I think for me, it's like the awareness piece comes from the moment you want to discharge the feelings, then you know at that point there's something you might need to like work on. But going back to that fight or flight and some tips, what happens is the amygdala, which is the back part of our brain, lights up every time we go into fight or flight. And so we want to bring that sensation to the front part of our brain, which is the prefrontal cortex. And you're like, why are we talking about this? The reason I bring that is that's the rational part of your brain that helps you feel better. So there's two techniques I love using. One is called mirroring, which is, and the other is like naming your feelings, which Lisa alluded to. So when you name your feelings, you just say them out loud and you're just like, I feel whatever. And that's the other thing. Language is so powerful. I know back in the day, we're like, sticks and stones don't break your bones, but listen, words are very powerful. So the more vocabulary you have around the emotions you can potentially have, I think it's way powerful. So it's not just like I'm scared, but like I'm fearful or I'm desperate or I'm feeling despaired or anguish. There's different words, and those nuances kind of help us pinpoint and name those feelings even better. And just repeating it back can help diffuse that amygdala to bring it to the prefrontal cortex. So you can actually rationally move through these emotions because they are tough. And as Lisa mentioned before, like they're not good or bad. They all emotions, even if we don't like them, they're good to have because they're warning signals or they're telling us something. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And words are powerful, definitely. And I love how you shared that tip of like deepening your, naming the emotions. And I see that a lot of times too, when people are having a hard time, like I'm sad, and it's such a blanket one. And then as you kind of go deeper, you're kind of like, well, sad could mean a lot of things. You could be embarrassed, you could be frustrated, like this, and or you could be just grieving. That could be the sadness. So as you kind of dive deeper, it's such a beautiful way to really expand yourself and just see how many more levels there are to your emotions. Yeah, thank you.
I know for me, I think recognizing the trigger is such a big one, and catching the programmed pattern and interrupting it. I always try to think of like a Jedi laser sword, right? Like, and it's a lightsaber, just cutting it and stopping that from continuing. And for me, it always shows up in anger and irritation are the main things that are the main like emotion that tells me you're not okay. And it's usually a blanket for something much, much deeper, right? My needs aren't being met. I'm feeling disrespected. My bucket is empty, whatever, blood sugar crash, whatever it is. But for me, it's recognizing the little anger triggers that build and build and build, and then suddenly the blow up. And so I've had to teach myself to catch it before, the volcano explodes. And for me, I really turned to aromatherapy. That was my biggest one, and utilizing the actual therapy part of the aroma, where it goes, again, I love the science too, Jelena. It goes into your limbic region in your brain where we store memories and traumas. And it's almost like a room full of file cabinets where you pull out the file drawer and look at all the crap that's in there, right? And so breaking some of those traumas and taking out the file and going, I don't need this anymore, letting it go, is part of that aromatherapy reprogramming. And so for me, I would literally find myself starting to get angry, and I would grab my bottle of oil and I'd put it on, and I would do like a Darth Vader breathing in the corner just to break the cycle of the explosion out my mouth, which was my programmed response. And as soon as I'd cover my mouth and take deep breaths, at first it was very desperate and I was doing it out of desperation. Then I learned that I was doing it out of a response instead of a reaction. And I was starting to grab for the aromatherapy first. And, it was changing as I went. It wasn't so desperate anymore. And now I can feel it way, way, way sooner, which is very nice. But I always recognize that it's always something deeper underneath that I do need to take time to explore, whether through journaling or talking with a friend or just crying.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I love this journey that you described, how it's, went from desperate to now it's proactive, and now it's very nurturing experience versus there where it was more reacting. And that recognizing of the pattern is so powerful. And I also loved how you talked about that filing cabinet and just finding things that are not needed anymore, that are not true anymore, that have served maybe its purpose at one point, and you're ready to let go. You're like, shred that one, that one's done, and just creating space for new ones. So thank you for sharing that. Katarina or Lisa, would one of you like to share?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody just said everything, like all the words you have spoken that just come out of my own mouth. Like I spent my 20s in a really bad emotional way, So my responses and my decisions were according to that. So my outer world looked utter crap, really, you know, the people, the situations and all those things. And then around 29 years old, I just one day had enough, and I asked for help. So I was taught how to face it, face on. You know, one of my tools is the mirroring, right? So I've been mentored into making friends with what I call my shadow. So that's all the things that you're talking about, right? So I stand in front of the mirror and I'm crying and I'm having a meltdown and I'm going, and I let my shadow through, and it's like, what are you doing, girl? Come on, there's something beautiful coming. Let's look at this and let's get rid of it so I can bring more light into your life. You know, this is how I do it, right? And it works, you know, because I'm allowing myself to express. I feel angry today because no one's listening to me, and how can I change this, you know? And then the question would be, well, are you listening to yourself? Are you listening to how you're responding? Are you listening to what your intuition is trying to say, you know? And then, you know, my frustrations and all that go, no, I'm not. I'm just too busy crying and getting upset, you know? And then, you know, and then I asked myself, well, okay, well, calm down. So, you know, you do the breathing and all this type of stuff. But my point is, I've been mentored to learn how to validate that ugliness. To not look at it as an ugly thing, but to look at it as a part of my energy field, or my emotional state that needs attention, that needs to be cradled, that needs to be held, that needs to say, it's okay. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to do these things, because it's going back to that validation, right? Our inner child, our adult person, our future selves want us to validate every part of ourselves. So, yeah, like I can be an emotional queen, you know, like we all can, right? And, but like my husband's pretty quiet. So his quietness has taught me how to step back and not allow it to hurt me anymore. Because if we don't learn how to find the solution through, you know, talking to friends or doing those things, we can hurt ourselves by not saying, shh, it's okay. Let me hold you. I love you. I love you. It's all right. Let's talk about this. So going deeper is what I call rabbit holes. I mean, we all talk the same language, but I call them rabbit holes. And now I just jump in and go, okay, I got my sword. Let's go. What are we going to find out today? So, you know, like yesterday, my personal experience was I spent half the day in tears because of things that were going on. And so I just allowed it to move through me. And I embraced it. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted, yes, but solutions came to me because I cleared the way. I told my emotional self, go, it's okay, shh, calm down. Let's look at this. Let's see if we can find any solutions. And then what happens is, you know, your universe brings you the people that you can have a little quick chat with, and, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's kind of how I do it, the mirror work, and just allowing my shadow and saying, what are you doing, girl? Come on, there's something beautiful coming. Let's talk about this, you know. So,
I love how you mentioned that, how important is that allowing piece, right? Like this energy of surrender, of just letting it be what it is. And then how that clears the way or brings you answers, or both clears the way and brings you answers and guidance and people that are needed, or resources that are needed, whether it's people or other tools in that moment. So that, because the opposite of that would be to, you know, that allow has this flowing, right? You become stiff, right? When you become so stiff, when you're holding on, you know, whether you don't want to feel it or you just, those knuckles, right? Those white knuckles, when you're really like just holding tight, and nothing can flow through that. Yeah, you might feel a little numb. You might feel like, you know, you're strong and you're like plowing through it, but nothing can come through that. So that allowing piece is huge.
And that's the challenge too. The challenge is to be able to allow it to come through, because if it's been hidden away for a very long time, it's like you got to face yourself, right?
Yeah. And a lot of practices you're sharing, it sounds, to me, what I'm picking up in common is the part of practicing it. It's not something that was there built in, right? It's a routine, it's a practice, an evolving practice, I bet. How we evolve this, and it seems as somebody listening, as our others are tuning in and listening to this, it might seem that it's something that you just pick up and kind of do, but it's really just you build block by block, and eventually that's what it becomes. And it also, might change too. It's not something that's kind of forever and there to stay forever.
Well, it gets easier. I mean, I
And it
spent
gets
29
easier.
years,
love
right?
that.
I
Yeah.
spent 29 years learning how to build my platforms of understanding. So, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, it takes time and patience and lots of love and letting go of things that don't work. That's the challenge, right? The challenge.
Yeah,
It's all about feeling worthy of that new emotion that you're creating, because you're the alchemist, right? You're creating that new emotion to put into your little toolbox so you can use it next time. So if anyone's listening and going, oh my gosh, that just sounds too hard. Yeah, it is hard, but you got to be patient with yourself. You got to learn that whatever you're experiencing is validated through your own self-worth. So it doesn't matter what anybody else says, because it's you have to understand yourself. So if you have to get on your knees and have a big cry and yell at the universe, like I have many times, that's okay too, because the universe wants you to be authentic in your expression. It's the toxicity that you may create that creates the karma. So
authentic in your expression. That's beautiful. Lisa, anything you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I think the thing about emotions is we're humans and we get to have emotions. So a lot of times it's like, oh, emotions, we don't want those things. Well, all of them are experiences. All of them are valuable. And I think just going back to the start of how to navigate this, it's through awareness. I think I came in when some of you were mentioning awareness, but just going back to awareness, because this is such a great tool for us to use. I remember when I first started, I would cry and I wouldn't know why I would cry, and I would say I'm just frustrated, because I couldn't even name the emotion because it was so jumbled up inside of me. And I remember the first time I actually felt rage, which I didn't think I was an angry person, but I felt it. And I'm like, what is that? Oh my gosh, that's anger. That's rage. Wow, how cool. I didn't know that. And starting to do that, and just to kind of sit with yourself, if there's something that's coming up for you that's frustrating or overwhelming, or any of these feelings that we normally have, and like everybody was saying, go deeper into it. But also recognizing when you're feeling out of alignment or out of integrity, or just really uncomfortable, what's going on there, because that will help you uncover what emotions are stirring inside of you and why they're there. And most of the time those emotions are coming out because we're out of alignment, or we're having a traumatic memory, or it's something that needs to be cleared and released. And so I love to use the tool of journaling, because journaling has been just so huge in my life, to go into what's actually happening when I become aware of something. It's like I can go back into the story and what's underneath the story and what's behind the story, and really kind of explode it so it gets out and gets released, because when you become aware, you can acknowledge it and then you can release it. So awareness, I would say, is a huge practice.
Yeah, there's so many gifts that awareness brings, like you said, the exploration piece, the release piece all starts with that awareness. Yeah, that's beautiful. And if we have anybody that's tuning in that would love to share their journey, their tips, or jump into conversation, please put that in comments. And we have also Christine Ray joining us. Welcome, Christine. If you'd like to jump in at any point, feel free to unmute yourself and jump into the discussion. We'd love to hear from you as well. There's so many great tools, and there's so many great stories being shared. And I think Katarina touched on this just a little bit, but it's about the other side of that, right? The commitment to explore this and feel uncomfortable and be curious to explore the rage inside of us, or be brave enough to acknowledge, yes, there is something there that I don't like, that I might think, oh, it's ugly, but the courage to explore it and be like, you know what, I'm still gonna dive in. I'm not gonna just shove it and leave it and let it just decompose somewhere in the back, creating a stink that I don't want to then deal with. What is that other side once you begin to explore and put some tools in place? What comes from that awareness, from that willingness to do the work and to be really honest? And somebody, I think it was Katarina, said about the worthy of the emotions, other emotions that are coming. I'd love to explore, what does that place look like right now, having done some work, having done some exploration, or having done a lot of work and a lot of exploration. What's that place like?
Well, that place, well, it's a beautiful place. It's a quiet place. You get the tingles all over the body. You suddenly feel like you're aligned and everything flows to you. That place makes you have that aha moment. Oh, look what I can do. Look, wow, if I step away from if I step back and just allow the shadow work through, and then look, what can I see? A beautiful sunlight, or, oh, wow, look at this gift that I've received. And the gift is that you feel worthy enough to have had the courage to even look at it in the first place, right? And it's quiet, it's beautiful, your skin glows, your body feels relaxed, you go out in the sun and your eyes have to squint because the light is really bright, so you've cleaned your energy. It feels like it's the quietness. I always say, after these sorts of emotional outbursts, if you suddenly feel really quiet and you stop crying and you feel really quiet and you feel that strength within you, then you know you have solved whatever it was that you needed to do in that particular moment. And trust that something will manifest that will show you how you've achieved that push through. It could just simply be, you get a little message from somebody saying, oh, I was thinking about you today, you're doing great. And that's how the universe speaks to you, right? By doing that. But the emotional feeling of it is, if you feel really quiet, you feel a nice little heat around the heart chakra. You feel that you are worthy of having the solution so you can create something beautiful, right? Because creation is messy, isn't it, Katie?
Yeah.
Creation is messy, and it's supposed to be messy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So going to that quietness, into the nothingness, and just sit within it and just be proud of what you've achieved from that day. And can I just add, please, that when we're talking about our emotions, if you don't feel that you're not doing anything, I want you to know that in the background there's a lot happening that you can't feel or see. And if you're allowing yourself to let it come through, something will manifest to show you that you were quite busy in that quiet moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think it's so important to share these insights, and they're all going to look different. But we know a lot of times, when we're working on our physical well-being, it's easier sometimes to pick up that it's quote unquote working what we're doing, right? You're going to notice these things. And with emotional well-being, it's not as apparent sometimes, but I love how you touched on these different aspects, how our emotional well-being makes your skin glow. And that's a physical attribute. And that's, because things are just the frequencies of our tissues, as Dr. Jelena mentioned, when we release the emotions from the organs that they resonate with, they vibrate at a different frequency. And of course, our skin's going to glow, and we're going to feel that warmth around our heart. And
your eyes widen. I know with my clients, when I finish with my clients, they come in with their eyes a little closed, because they're heavy. And then when they leave me, their eyes are really, look,
Right.
like I'm feeling aligned, I'm feeling grounded. Yeah, that's a beautiful feeling too.
Yeah, and it goes back to what Lisa was saying about the alignment, right? It's being aligned to your truth, to your higher self, to yourself in general. And that, those bright, open eyes, with excitement, curiosity, and readiness to jump in. Thank you so much, Katarina. Anyone else? Dr. Jelena.
I know. Sorry, I'm just like, ready to go.
I'm
excited.
Incredible. Yeah.
I just going back to what Katarina was saying, like for me, like I kind of liken it to like if you're going swimming against the tide and you're swimming against the tide and your arms are tired, and for me, it's that moment when you like just stop swimming and there's that whole sense of relief that kind of just like washes over you. That's the feeling I get when I'm kind of just navigating my negative emotions, because to be honest with you, it doesn't mean that I have to like at some point I'm gonna have to start swimming again because I need to get to where I'm trying to get to. So for me, it's not all of a sudden like everything's gone or the issue isn't away. It's still there, but there's a sense of relief that kind of washes over me when I just take a moment to just be in it and just kind of float in the water for a minute and just be like, okay, well, this is where we're at. And this is what's happening. This is the way I'm feeling. And I'm just acknowledging that. And when I'm ready to swim again, when the relief is like, I'm like, okay, have my break. I'm ready to go back out there. Then I can swim again. So that's kind of how I liken it to.
Yeah. And, you bring up a really something that I'm leaning into, that piece of rest, right? It's not defeat, and it's not, like I give up kind of. It's rest. It's being like, okay, I just need to rest, pause right now, right here. And that rest is so productive. And what I'm seeing over and over again is that rest propels you further than what if you have been just going against it. So it's a beautiful rest and release piece. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else?
I can jump in. I know for me, I would love, Katarina, I would love for there to be like silence and stillness, but that's not the energy I rock ever. So for me, it feels, I want to like honor people who are like, oh, I don't ever feel quiet stillness. Like, that's cool. For me, it feels like really good music where there's this tension and dissonance that builds up in the music, and then there's this resolution and there's this harmony, and none of the instruments are playing the same thing, and the singer is singing something else. And when you feel good music, like you feel it, right? You get goosebumps, you feel it in your soul. For me, kind of being on the other side of, not that there's a side, but being a little bit more mature in my emotional development really feels like I've kind of mastered this instrument that I've worked on for a long time to get so that it doesn't sound like a honking horn, right? And it's got this flow to it. And it does take strength and resilience, and it takes building muscle, and that hurts sometimes. You have to stretch and tear to
Yeah.
repair and rebuild. And I know for me on the other side now, as I'm taking my business further and helping people, I feel so validated by emotionally validating my clients. Right? That's where I feel so like, oh, look at, I'm doing the work and now I'm helping them see themselves, and it's like this, my bucket gets filled by validating other people's emotional experiences and emotional journeys. And then through my parenting journey, also just hearing my children, you know, talking to each other in a way that like I never talked with my siblings. Like there was never this respect and this understanding and this like, oh, well, she's fiery today, we're going to give her some space to cool down, right? Like they don't get offended when somebody's hot or somebody's temper is up. They just recognize it and allow it to be. And kids are so amazing like that. They've taught me so much. So I think for me, being on the other side is so amazing to be able to validate other people and their emotional journey, and then seeing the work that I've done just kind of mirroring to me and my own children. That's been really just super, super, super profound. But of course, like the work's never done, right? Like, no.
Exactly. And it's this beautiful realization. And I love what Katarina shared her place feels like. And I love that you're sharing different places, because everybody's a different point in our journey, and in these incredibly unique, beautiful places that everyone's supposed to be. And I think it's really important, because there's other areas in our life that sometimes it's like, oh, if it doesn't look like this, maybe I'm doing something wrong, or maybe I'm not doing this, or maybe I'm not meant for this, all of these questions where it's really, like there's such a gamut and there's such a spectrum of what it looks like. And, based on our inner work that is happening right there. And I loved, you talked about harmony. You talked about this harmony, and it goes back to that alignment Lisa was talking about. It's hard to explain what harmony is like, but it's this beautiful place where it could be these different melodies or these different instruments, and yet it all comes together so beautifully and you feel it. So that's a beautiful place to be. Anyone else would like to share about what that place? Yeah, Lisa, come on in.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us are used to pushing down the emotions, and we feel something we don't want to, because we don't have time. I don't have time for that. And so we push, and that's where things get stuck. That's when there's no movement in our energetic field. Things get clogged and stuck. We feel stuck. We get depressed. All those things happen. And when you're able to stop resisting what is and move through it, by acknowledging it, becoming aware, and all the things that everybody said, you're able to release some of that stuckness. And what that looks like is creating space to allow more light to come in, to allow higher vibrational energies to come in, to allow things like freedom and joy and happiness and synchronicities and opportunities to come in. When you're stuck in your emotions, when you're stuck in your stories, when you're stuck, period, in any of those fields, it creates this there's no energetic movement. There's no space for the energy to move. And so when you're able to clear that out and release it, and you don't resist and you allow what is, that's when all these wonderful things happen that allow you to manifest the results that you want, to allow you to have the outcomes that you want, the results that you want. So that's what it looks like to me, is a magical life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's as you shared, it's a process, and it's we talked about this, it can be a messy one, but that beautiful place, or this beautiful idea of stopping to resist what is, stop resisting what is sometimes even that alone could be a very hard place to get to, resisting what is. And sometimes, that outside influence or societal pressures of, gotta, like you said, push through, you're tired, just keep going, like you're this, just shove it, that's weak, instead of really being gentle with ourselves. Yeah, that's really harsh, and puts a lot on our emotional body, physical body, mental. It's all of that. So yeah, that's a really, really big, just that place of letting go and resisting what is a beautiful place to be, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing, Lisa. Anyone else? Anyone watching us, please jump in and share in comments, or leave any inquiries, anything else that might be there. Or Christine, if you're tuning in, if you'd like to jump in, welcome to do that as well. And thank you all so much. It's been such an incredible experience to hear your experience. Is very it's an honor to be hearing them. And also I love the variety of, there was so many similarities, right? There was so many anchoring kind of practices or thoughts or directions, but at the same time there was so much uniqueness in it, and that's what makes it so beautiful and so valuable and really powerful. And I also wanted to invite all of you, if you have ways that you'd like to share, to connect with you, to further connect with you, please put that in chat, your website, or if you'd like to share with us, if you have anything coming up that you'd like others to know and be a part of, please let us know. And then we'll share, Sophia's going to share that as well, but if you want to unmute yourself, if you have something, invitations, go ahead.
Well, I'd like everyone to come and visit me on my website, on Facebook. Send me a message, let's have a little chat, do all that. And I'm just proud to say that my third chapter for my third book is being released on the 11th of November. So what to come out and have a look at my Facebook, you'll see all my posts. So my chapter is all about your beautiful messy creation, and that you are more than you know. So come and have a read and meet all the other authors, Katie. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and it was a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you, Katarina.
I'll jump in. I actually just through my astrology experience and whatnot, I have found that the best way is to help people dive into their emotional self by giving them prompts and questions. So I actually created some astrology based journals that help people based on their moon sign, which is the planet that rules our emotions. So there's fire, air, earth, and water. And so the questions are geared towards helping you really dig deep and uncover some of those mysteries about yourself and why you do things certain ways, and just gets you thinking in a new way. My husband's always told me I'm very good at asking interesting questions, so I put them into journal format for people. So you can find those on Amazon. And then I also just published a book with a bunch of women, 12 other women, just 2 weeks ago, called Dare to Express. And it is a collective of stories of women who have just basically bared their soul and gone through this big emotional trauma and then told their story about it. And mine is very much my deepest parenting shame and my deepest rock bottom moment, and how I found the tools in that moment to dig myself out, and the difficulty it was, and the experience of the mental health and emotional health inside my head. And so my chapter really goes deep into what that's like when you're, trying to heal your own wounds and your own emotional maturity while dealing with a lot of little children at the same time, and dealing with their physical needs as well and emotional needs. So I think it's a great collection of women's stories that are very inspiring. So you can find that, Laura Lee Lotto, on Amazon as well. So, and then my website is lauraleelotto.com. So thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, Laura Lee.
I'm a holistic diabetes health coach and a clinical pharmacist. So with emotions, the one thing I will say is if you do have higher blood sugars or insulin resistance, it's really hard to control those blood sugars, no matter what medications we put you on, if your emotions aren't regulated. So it can really cause a lot of issues to your health, especially chronic diseases. So if you're in a position where you need any type of assistance like that, please hop in there, reach out to me. I love getting emails. I love answering calls. Find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. Just find me. I would love to answer any questions. So thank you guys. Oh, and I offer a free complimentary session. The first one's it's 30 minutes. It's nice. And we can kind of see if what resources I have that can assist you. So thank you. It's been great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to add my email and a link to my calendar, which for a 30-minute complimentary call where we can look at what's blocking you from getting the results that you want so you can move forward with more ease. And then also, I just put the name of my book, Claim Your Brilliance. It's on Amazon. It's just a little book, 50 keys, and it's got a lot of really great feedback. It's a couple years old, but still good. So yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And Sophia, we'd love to hear about this beautiful community and how others can be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Katie. And can I just thank you and honor all you beautiful women for coming in and sharing all your tips about, how to navigate our emotions in this. And we're living in a crazy world. And it's really, really important that we do navigate our emotions and be able to express them, definitely not to suppress them, express them in a very, productive way, So thank you ever so much. I'm really, really, really grateful for that. And thank you everyone for joining us in the comments. And of course, Christine, who's joining us live. And Christine, if you're still there, you're more than welcome to come and say hi before we go. And if you've got anything that you would like to add, Christine, please do. For everyone out there who is watching us and for all our beautiful panelists, come and join us. Come and join our sacred community. We run these panel discussions on a weekly basis, sometimes 2 or 3 a week, just depends. And coming up, I don't even know what's coming up next week, but we have some fun panel discussions coming up. But plus we also have over 30 special interest tribes where you can join us just for $1 Australian. Try it all out for 3 weeks, and then after that it's just 15 Australian dollars a month, and that includes, like I said, over 30 special tribes, from health and wellness to business to personal empowerment to all your different metaphysical things, human design and astrology and tarot cards, and of course Lisa's tribe, which is Rise Up, Embody Your Infinite Light. So just tell us very quickly, Lisa, a little bit about your tribe.
Yeah, so this tribe is all about how to become more visible, how to embody your light, how to create more space, how to some of the things that we talked about here, and how to use the sacred rays to help add more light to your life.
Yeah. So thank you. So that's a wonderful tribe that I really look forward to the next time that it's on. And for more details on all that, just click on the links below. And then next week, Absolutely. Next week, come and join us for visibility, the vulnerability of being seen, heard, and sharing, which goes on from navigating our emotions, allowing our emotions to be seen, heard, and that we can share them. So do join us for that. Same time, almost same time, next week on the 12th. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, all you beautiful women, again. And we will see you sometime very soon.